Celia, I was just in your room. Kudos to you. So, this is a series we started yesterday about. I found practical spirituality very helpful in my life without being dogmatic or associating with a particular religion or rituals, anything like that. But the ancient insights into the human nature, human being, and how we could really apply them in the modern stress is my real passion, really. Wellness and planet, everything is tied with that. So I started the series yesterday with the first day being how do we keep tranquility or rather some peace in our mind in the midst of chaos. That was the topic that we were talking about. And I was going to expand on the other things that I listed, like 10 of them I listed, right? 10 topics each day. Since yesterday was happened to be introduction and what I intend to do here and how it would be probably helpful to modern people to understand our stresses and then find means uniquely not invasive. It's got to do with our understanding without probing into the truth of any matter and thereby really changing our you know our understanding about it, our attitude about it, right? So for example, we have so much unrest in the society, so many divisions. We could easily understand that we are really not separate, we are all human beings. Once we cultivate that attitude, um, majority in our lives, at least, we won't have the divisions in our heart, and we will be dealing with people for what they are. They are human beings too, right? That kind of understand. That's the uniqueness of this spiritual knowledge I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any particular ritual or any particular things that you want to do are not really not rooted in some superstition, some kind of dogmatic theory and all that. I'm completely away from that because you remember, basically I'm a physician, I'm a scientific person, but then I discovered the ancients also were scientific people too. So they investigated the truth inside us, whereas modern scientists, we can to understand the external circumstances as much as possible, and then we kind of devise the tools that can help us with our living and all that. That may be something that you want to really understand. Okay. um, so somebody is calling me. So I will talk to them later. Okay, sorry about that. Somebody called me, but I'll talk to them later. Uh, so, as an introduction as to what I'm up to, I want to clear that I'm not really into propaganda of anything. I don't get propagandized because I was very open about this from the time I was in this country, 1980s, when I was really uprooted from a different culture. At least at that time, the cultures were different. But now, if you go, the same kind of culture is the commercialism, consumerism, propaganda. All these things are there in India. So this Western culture is sweeping away a lot of people. But my point is, we don't have to even divide ourselves as different cultures, but they understand what's the best from each culture. Like American, I like the punctuality, I like the openness, I like the freedom, I like the freedom to express ourselves, and also opportunity to really realize your potential. I think that's great. That's what I like in America. But if I look at the social evils of racism, inequality, and a lot of money problems, and all those things, I think that could be avoided. They are still going on. I don't really associate with that. But when the spirituality, you have more equanimous in your treatment of anybody. You don't identify people by sex, race, or country, or any of that, right? And also, you have empathy, sympathy, love for other people in your heart. So I kind of want to really take the best of modern medicine, modern society, modern science, and best of ancient wisdom, some of the hacks that could really help us to deal with the Western problems that we have. Like, for example, a lot of IT people that I meet are suffering because of the information overload, because they carry the laptop all the time, and data is available for them, so they are expected to work all day sometimes, and they do because of the country they are in. The other countries awake, and they have to be awake at night time to serve the service sector, like that, right? So a lot of people I met in IT told me about they can't sleep very well, they can't focus very well, they are really basically insomniacs, right? Some of it is cultivated, some of it is forced upon them, some of it is they are doing it because they don't know anything better, right? Why do you have to drink so many cups of coffee or energy drinks? And then that will keep you stimulated and you can't sleep. Okay. So I do attend to these people's physiological, psychological, and spiritual needs in a way that's going to be helpful to them. So I call my company Be a Pal, be a friend is the meaning of that, and that's all I want it to be. And lots of times I feel good about it, and that itself makes you feel good. So how you feel in your spirit is what I'm going to focus on in these days. And the first topic was, how do you have tranquility inside you when there are chaos around? For example, suppose we are in a war zone, or we are in a natural disaster zone, or we are in a economic meltdown. So many things, right? And so many dangers are there. But how do you maintain equanimity? That's what I learned from the ancient wisdom. It's a tall order for many people, but then at least making inroads into what that understanding, why they are so really stable without really getting any of this worries inside or constant thinking that were not there, because they kind of viewed how we are born, how we are, demising, there is a death, and also is there a continuity of life and all that. Okay, a big perspective change between the ancient and us modern people is about consciousness, right? When you are based on consciousness with the premise that consciousness is the fundamental, and everything you else that you are conscious about is not consciousness. All the things, all the thoughts, all the feelings, everything we are conscious about is not consciousness, but that which is conscious or experiential about itself, that is consciousness. They maintain that's fundamental, and the body and mind are really manifesting from that consciousness. That's way different than our modern science. Up until recently, they were thinking that consciousness is born out of our mind, and that's why it's a totally different understanding, right? But now they are really coming towards that ancient understanding. The scientists who are working on the consciousness and who are really trying to import it to IT, the chat GPT, other language models, will they be conscious? Will they be making their own decisions? Right now, they are making a lot of machine learning, and then they're going towards that. Okay, but then you can say we are not really conscious for so many things. Basically, what you want to understand is consciousness being permanent, that is the life that comes into us, and then goes away from us, is the reality. But then that life doesn't go anywhere. It kind of comes in another form. Like the grass goes down during the winter, and then it looks like all the life is gone there. With all the everything is covered, everything is buried, everything is having ice over it. And then after that is gone during the fall and summer, it springs up, right? Life is also like that. Like we see the black and white movies, so many thousands of people gathering in the streets. We wonder where they have gone, what has happened. And then there's a big argument about how our birth, rebirth, and all that, right? Some of the arguments as a physician I saw were about some of these child prodigies that come on. They have enormous talent even at the age of 4 or 5 when they don't know anything about the keyboard or the piano, but put them on that and they will play beautiful tunes. So the argument is they have retained these what are they called, vasanas, like a tendencies or full-blown talents. That's what we see in the child prodigies, right? They kind of um, enormous creativity out of that small brain and all that. I've seen a different variety of say child prodigies because I was very interested in the afterlife. What is that? Not that I'm kind of wanted that, but I just was curious about it, right? And there were some stories for some of scientists were telling about how these child prodigies are recollecting a lot of details uh, from the life they have never seen, because they are just born, they have not traveled, but then they can describe other places very vividly. So many arguments out there. So basically, that is the purpose of that's the way ancient looked at. Consciousness is fundamental, is eternal, is never dying, is cannot be destroyed. But then that consciousness leaves the body, then we have entered the body and mind as they are, and then they kind of putrefy and they become danger for other people too. Whereas modern people, up until now, not so as much now because they are also coming to that old thing, but they have to prove that. So the hard problem of consciousness now is how is something like a mechanical, not really alive body can produce something alive as consciousness, something dynamic as consciousness. Okay, so but that is being investigated, and I kind of being a scientist and also have the spirituality in my life. I kind of move towards the ancients. I believe intuitively, I feel that is so. So when we don't have the awareness, what are we? When we are, the awareness is that conscious being, right? So when I understood and based my life on the essence of consciousness, lot of things turned around for me. Don't have the fear of death anymore, and I know how to live in the present, and I can see other people also eternal beings. In that we are all equal. Okay, once you establish yourself in that conscious being, that is actually it has the serenity, calmness, peace itself. joy itself, and then once you are there, even though outwardly there's so much chaos going on, you are assured that you will be continued no matter what, even if you end your body and mind, but your conscious being is continued. That is the premise. Okay, that's how you be stable in the midst of chaos, all chaos going around you, but you yourself are really stable and being in that. That means you don't have the movement of thought, and you will be not imagining, or you will be conceptualizing things, right? You will be facing whatever it is as it is. Okay, so that's the first principle we talked about. So why this orientation to spirituality for somebody who was brought up in scientific traditions? For me, I want to give a little bit of talk on that, because that's important to understand. Um, I'm not somebody like other people who are really having some trauma, and that's why they turn to this, and then they look at it. I was not like that, I was brought up in India with the rituals and all that, but they were only not forced upon us, so we'll see, as we grew up, then it was all completely Western scientific model, our education in the college and all that. And but then always there was this pull of trying to know what is yoga, what is Vedanta, what is Indian traditional culture and all that. Okay, there were several things that were not explained to us, but they worked for us, you know that was very intriguing, because when you think about a logical mind or analytical mind, some things that they are doing don't make sense, but they work, you know so they have this love, for example, unconditional, easily given, nothing is asked in return. How? Because these people are illiterate, they don't know anything education like the standards here, but then some of them are very very wise, instinctively wise. Their crops, flourished very well. Their pets flourished very well. Their children flourished very well, because they have intuitively doing some wise things that they are in their genes, maybe. So kind of somebody who observes cultures, who studies different populations and different tribes and all that. I was fascinated the intelligence that tribes have shown, right? So then, what is spirituality is how you are in your spirit. Are you a spirited man? Are you a compassionate woman? Are you a really loving human being? Are you a kind human being? Are you a forgiving human being? That is the spirit I'm talking about. You know, and it's not personality, but beyond the personality, having these noble characters that I saw in many people there. They're not rich, they're not very illiterate and all that, but they have this inner riches that really fascinated me. My school teachers were very keen on taking notice of our inner self, how, what character, what kind of morals, what kind of values, qualities we are building. All that was there, and those people were not paid anything extra. They just took care of it because we are children, and they care for us, and they showed that nurturing spirit. So in so many ways, we need that, not the mechanical, analytical, conceptual mind that is maybe good for the external things, to make tools to make our life better, to do things for us. But then, when you want to feel good about this thing, this is the spirituality I'm talking about. And as I realized it, that became a big deal with Gandhi, and that was also a big influence on me. And then I came to this country, and then I got introduced to J. Krishnamurti, who kind of derided all religions, all gurus, all sorts of outward things. And that appealed to me because he talked to us, or he asked everybody, think for yourself, don't follow anybody, and also dump all the traditional knowledge and then start to observe yourself, be here and now, don't be a victim of the thought. He wrote a book called Ending of Thought. That may be something you want to take a look at it. Okay. So then I turned to spirituality, not by my choice, but I was somehow dragged into it, right? That makes more sense to me, not the reading about it, but then investigating of our inner nature. That is the one that really appeals to me. And then there is a flowering, there is a unfolding of ourselves when we investigate something like that within ourselves. Not depending on anybody or anybody's theory, but just find. For example, if I get tremendous anger, where did it come from? What was the meaning? And looking at that, really, that anger went away, and I was benefited by that in so many ways, right? Uh, Suppose I have a feeling for my friend, and I miss him, then I have to investigate why am I attached too much to my friend, so inner states, investigating the truth of it by ourselves with our own intelligence, not according to some theories, somebody wrote from a single mind, all that, that made a lot of difference. And then, as the cobwebs have opened up or untied, I felt much better. The clarity, the seeing of the truth in any matter is really wonderfully, like, when you're doing any subject and you have not understood, as you are understanding it, it suddenly makes feel like, yeah, that makes sense, aha moment they call it. But then really the clarity is very, very valuable, I think. you know so, as I found the spirituality's depths, it became wonderful to live as a human being. In spite of all the troubles, all the problems that we had in the medicine career, in my family life, or in our friendships, or business, or politics, whatever we see, all those things that used to really take a big problem with us. Okay, so I was more interested in enlightenment of truths, not the state of enlightenment, but after having that experience of unfolding truth. And outward life improved quite a bit because I was getting along with more people. I was not having any problems with them. And I was getting less dependent on external things. And I was able to give easily, freely, because it's all temporary anyway, right? So, kind of liberation from the otherwise materialistic, trying to hoard things or grab things, that kind of thing is gone, right? And then you felt more like you are giving and getting a lot in return, right? So that's why I thought we should expose ourselves to that kind of truths, and then see whether we are really, I think this power is gone on the iPad. Excuse me, let me put it. Okay. Hi, Jacob. It is a bird. Okay, he'll come. So that was the intention. Okay, that's the sharing that I want to do. Um, so, hi, Jacob. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Rao. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. I started a new series, Practical Spirituality. This is the day two, and I'm
I I got too excited. I was about to interrupt you, but I'm not going to interrupt you.
No,
Please
no, no,
continue.
no problem. I'm just casually talking about telling people why I'm doing what I'm doing and all that. So, what do you think of the title?
I love it. I love it because it's like you take a you take an abstract, ethereal concept and you make it workable. You're saying no, 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 no. It's not abstract. It's not ethereal. This is applicable,
Yeah,
and I really like that. And I missed yesterday's session.
yeah,
I joined the room as
mm,
soon as you ended it,
yeah,
and I was the first person that to jump into the replay, and I was like, oh no. But
yeah,
I love this. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I had a very interesting conversation
mm,
where it was about suffering
mm,
stemming from the idea of desire and
mm,
desire and wanting
yeah,
kind of manifesting itself in two main flavors
mm,
originally,
mm,
which is craving and aversion. And during the process of urge surfing, like trying to really understand the emotion and thought that I have,
mm,
I'm starting to realize that it's not one emotion that hits you.
yeah,
Once you're able to identify the emotions, you notice that it's a mosaic. It's
yeah,
a mosaic, a kaleidoscope of emotions that hits you at every time. You feel every emotion at all times, but
yeah,
only to a specific percentage level.
yeah,
And for us to be able to identify the percentage levels of each possible conceptive emotion, it's like that.
yeah,
That is knowing thyself.
yeah,
And it's like an impossible practice, but the more we do it, it just, our life, our internal system, it immediately derives clarity from such a practice.
yeah,
Even though we're never going to be able to identify the exact percentage, the
yeah,
exact amount, 67% or 68% happiness versus 13 or 12% anxiety. Maybe it's one of those, maybe. But at least I'm able to start kind of feeling where it's more and where it's less.
mm.
And that's already very interesting to me.
What is remarkable about this for you, Jacob, that you are able to appreciate the inner dynamics. That itself is the first step in self knowing and not dismissing like whatever I feel is right or whatever is feel is bad for me. No, you got to really be aware of what's going on and then observing it, and then transformation comes out of it. See, as you said, emotions are like a mosaic, like thoughts are in a network. They breed on each other, they build on each other, right? But then thoughts have these two sides of the same coin. You can be hateful and loving of the same person for different reasons, right? So once you recognize it is the same thing at the different way we are looking at it, then you will be beyond both sides, and that is also self-knowing in a way. And then that loving condition is not turmoil. It's like a pacifies you, nurtures you, and also nurtures the opposite. That's why unconditional love has such a tremendous power in anybody. you know so that's very very important to understand, especially because people are becoming more analytical than loving. That's a quality. When you really, not that image that you have built up like ego, natural love is there, will come up. It will ask for anything, but itself will come out expressing.
You know what's interesting about the word analysis?
Yeah.
Like, it's individuals often try to
Mm.
formulate a logical sequence for them to comprehend
Mm.
the understanding. Okay, but very often it's not based on logic. Okay,
Mm.
and it's based on an emotive expression,
Yeah.
which we then try to understand via a logical lens.
Yeah, it's a
But
intuitive feeling.
but you know what's really interesting? It's like
Mm.
uh, we don't have access to every single human experience, and
Hmm.
thus we're not able to comprehend the logic of others because for them it was logical,
Yeah.
but for us it is not logical, and both sides lack a complete understanding of the process. Otherwise, if we had a complete understanding of every single dynamic, it would be logical. It would be logical because we're only using a certain amount of data to produce the result,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Hmm.
in that sense, it is logical. But if we all had complete knowledge, then we would all make the most right decision. But none of us do that because none of us have it.
Knowledge itself is limited, though. So if you go after the knowledge itself and then you go and find out, you will end up in a well that is all has to be dug in. Okay, it's not a complete thing. Other thing is, ask yourself, stop and say, who is this that is analyzing? Who is this that is feeling? Then you will end up with yourself beyond that feeling, beyond that knowledge.
The observer, Dr.
Yeah, and beyond that, whatever you are observing is because your observer made such a way. But once the observer knows his own limitations, then he won't choose any observed thing. He will be realizing we both are the same. I'm only observing what I know, but beyond that, I don't want to. So analysis is paralysis is a good word, I think, because it doesn't lead anything. You just end up paralyzing yourself because there is so much more than the limited knowledge, limited analysis, limited conceptualization. But for example, we were thinking only our solar system, right? And then it go through and said black holes and all of that. That was not conceptual, that was reality there. But then once somebody is able to penetrate that, then you don't need analysis. It's a fact. It is there, but it is not. It is beyond your analysis, your knowledge, and all like that. And knowledge is ever going to change and adapt itself to new or insights by some people. But then you know what is interesting? The people who have those insights, they have a very advanced analysis and conceptualization, at the end of which they have expired all that and they became silent. Even Einstein talks about that. So they have, then they conduit to the universal intelligence that is coming through them in terms of insights or discoveries or whatever they do, right? So that's very, very important to keep a note, and then allow that universal intelligence come through us as we are the conduit, not really producers or discoverers, maybe. Einstein said something like that. I only discover what is there. What's the big deal? I thought that was very important statement when he said that. So there are so many things that we keep on discovering, but then that itself, the whole knowledge is itself limited compared to what we can do. Okay. So, um,
I'm thinking of two words
yeah,
and an idea. See, I have thoughts when you speak,
yeah.
and I try to create a mental note,
Mhm.
so I'm able to give you the best quality response
Yeah,
upon responding. I'm thinking of the words comprehension and expression in a two-step process,
yeah,
and then it's like the idea of we only we only notice what we're trained to notice, or what we're capable of noticing, or what we choose to notice,
mm,
right? Instead of engaging in every single second with
yeah,
a beginner's mind, it's like we often get flooded with thoughts, and
mm.
we start curating our
That's it.
experiences
That's
due
it.
to due to our experience. Okay,
Yeah.
so the solar system example,
It's a network.
maybe some
It's a network,
may,
Jacob. All the thoughts
go
have
ahead.
the, yeah, network. That network kind of stimulators several different areas. So the more you are conceptual than grasping intuitively, the more network will be formed, and then we'll create more and more of that. Okay. Instead, beginning mind is what? Where you don't have this accumulation and you are really ready to absorb. That happens in sleep to some extent, but then quality of sleep has gone down. Body is tired, people want to sleep, but then they will have a lot of dreams. That means the mind is trying to get an orderly mind, right? That's why it is doing all the dreaming. But if you are really not accumulative during the day, but you are operating each movement with, that's the thing that you have to go through, Jacob. All those thoughts will come and interfere with that, and that's why you got to put the heat of meditation where these thoughts come up and go out of you. That is called vasanakshaya. That means all those tendencies towards that kind of thinking which you are describing will subside once you let it come to the top. This is something very important for our minds these days because of the enormous information we absorb. So do this practice and see. Tell me what happens to you in the morning when you get up. Arrange your room, arrange everything so that it is not out of orderly or something that gives you bad vibes. You just go to a open space, otherwise sit in a tree or in the house in a nice room, and then close your eyes and focus on the breath, and then take the breath, hold it, and take the breath out, right? Like that. Bring your attention back to breath every time it goes away into some other thought. That's all. That's called vipassana. That is a very simple thing to start with. Then you notice your thought is going all over, right? And then you want to bring it to one point. So what you want to do is catch hold of one of those thoughts, whatever it is, and stay with that thought. Don't let your attention go different way. And then once you are in there, then see that thought is negative or positive. Then you can change it. So if you can stop the different direction, that's one thing. If you can focus on one thought, that's a different thing. And then if you can go beyond that one thought, that's the real. And then staying absorbed in that silence is really blissful. It doesn't happen just like that. People may take years or months, or maybe they start with the silence completely. But what is possible is you can have a mind that is silent all the time, and you can have projection of thought at your will. That is conscious thought. So once you quite like that, and then you have this creative instincts, like eureka moments that happen with us, that happen more often the more you are coming back to your beginner's mind. Make sense?
Yes.
So this is actually what we need in our modern society, because of the so much information coming at us, so many stimuli are coming to us, and also all the time there is this entity evaluating, analyzing, calculating, conceptualizing, because there's so much lack of trust or lack of friendships, or all those things are there because we are kind of moved away from that oneness. So we kind of want to always to be protective of ourselves, and that is the danger too, because once you go and working in the hospital, for example, you have these so many enemies, imagine enemies that you want to fight against, you want to protect against, and that itself produces a lot of sympathetic overtones where you have to unwind yourself. One of the things is too much thinking goes on, whatever you are working. You are not in flow state. You are more like a thinking of multiple things and then doing multitasking and all. It's not really healthy that way.
I had a thought,
Yeah.
Dr. Rao. On January 1st, I had a thought. I said, I want to, for the next 6 months,
Mm.
I want to write a little bit of my story.
Yeah.
I think it's very important
Mm.
for individuals to conceptualize and express their perspective on their own life story.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I believe that this leads to a higher valence understanding,
yeah.
um, not just from a subjective perspective, but like an incorporative subjective perspective from other individuals to a more kind of objective level, right?
Good, great, great, Jacob. That's one way to really bring it out all from deep within you, deep recesses of mind, and that's kind of a uh, like a expulsion of whatever things that you want. We call that actually dirt in uh, in what do you say in the cleaning of the mind. Okay, desires are deep seated. Okay, longings deep seated, conclusions deep seated, conceptualizations, or your own prejudices, your own doubts, your own fears. I think that's a wonderful way of really knowing yourself and bringing it out, and also putting it all together like that kind of clarifies to you as to some of the situations why you are what it is, and kind of uh, acts as a cathartism. The journal writing, right? You can like blog also. If you write a blog on a particular topic, like I want to say what I mean by spirituality, what is why it is practical, how it is practical, how it is going to really help us here and now. All those things I'll write about. But then I may write about, like I have 10 topics, right? I want to talk about, and all those each topic that I'm going to talk about next few are already recorded anyway. But then I have not built up a story, but I'm breathing everything out of myself. So that is very good, Jacob, that you are trying to do it. Be with it.
Well, I like what you said, the
Mm.
idea of problems.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, I'm like, I would love to catalog every human problem that they've ever conceived of. And
Yeah.
then maybe we can aggregate the data to figure out who, like, how many times are humans presenting these problems, and then
Mm.
we have an immediate kind of direction. One second.
No, no, this is something your own subjective study that you want to do. You see, don't go and implement that with somebody else. What is it that has happened to you that is coming out of you that is unique? Just go with that, and that will become self knowledge for you. And then your transformation within is reflected outward, that will affect other people. But don't go and analyze other people. That will be too much, and also you will not be knowing yourself if you do that. But what you start out to do, that's very good. Because look at all the psychological studies, look at all this data that have, but how come there is so much addiction, so much violence, so much inequality, so many things are happening? Because this is not something you could do with conceptions. You got to know yourself first, and then contribute to the welfare of the world by really manifesting the transformation within outward. It's like this. If you don't know how to be silent, how are you going to go and tell other people be silent? If you don't know how to be not having too much anger, how can you go and tell other people? See, one of the energies is that is we would like to see is outward going, outward expression of opinions, outward expression of dictation or telling people what to do has not really worked. But and at the same time, the people who are doing that, the psychologists, psychiatrists, and all that, they kind of lost their normal mental life. This is called transference. The more you see the pathology in the society, the more it will reflect on you. This is called transference. Whereas if you work on yourself and then you are not really affected by the pathology outside. That's a healthy way to do. You get it? Okay, I would recommend anybody to review these 2 days of introduction about what I'm going to do, and then the next few days, if people come up and talk about their own journeys, that would be productive for all of us. As far as I am concerned, uh, I would maintain the two things I maintain: human and being. There is a way to enhance the human side of it, which is the body and mind. But then the being side of it is the not lot of people don't know. And this body mind complex is something, things can happen, but we can be silent and watch it from being that consciousness. That's my focus. That's why lots of times self-realized people are very healthy and happy and really not shaken by external events. So you want to really understand how to live in the middle of chaos, then with inner peace, this is the way to understand what is consciousness, what is conscious being, how is it that is the fundamental, how is it body and mind are manifesting from it. There's a lot more to discuss on that, but I just wanted to express how I am approaching this stuff. The result is the modern life cannot be so drastic, so dastardly. It can be something that we can enjoy, and in here and now, we can be in the joy, irrespective of our economic troubles, irrespective of our racial situations, or any number of social ills that we have. So you can understand them and keep aside from them, and if possible, you can contribute positively. Okay. So I will stop there for today. I even lost the people on the Wisdom app too, because of that iPad has no power and it suddenly stopped. So I wanted to power it. It's still powering off. So I'm sorry. I apologize for those people who were there. There were 6 people there. I will continue this series tomorrow. I made some videos, Jacob. They are on the YouTube also. If you want to, you can go spirituality part one and part two. I think I posted there. Very short videos, 4 or 6 minutes, and you can watch them. And if you want, you can go to the front of this room where I expressed why I'm doing this series. What's the real purpose behind it? Okay. Any questions, Jacob? Okay, I don't know even he's here. All right, I will talk to you guys tomorrow again.